Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Honey and we are doing another custom design tutorial. I'm really excited to show you guys this one. We're going to be making a plaza type brick path with a gray sidewalk to go with it, or you can use it to go with another sidewalk of your choosing. But it is for the winter, so it's a little bit more muted than the other brick paths that I have out there, so it looks really good on the snow. It's a little less saturated, for anyone that does like color theory and all of that when they're planning their islands. So this is a less saturated version. It will blend well in the grayer, snowy type of year, but you can also use it in any other kind of year, because I've seen someone use it in early spring and it looked really cute as well. So here we go. Right now, all I am doing is laying out the original, like the beginning, bare bones, actual path, like pattern of the brick, which is always the first thing that I do. And my inspiration for this is coming from an actual picture of a cobblestone street, like a plaza brick street that I saw on the internet. And I'm kind of just copying the brick path on that. You're going to see me go in and out of the app to adjust and mess with the lines just a little bit, just to make sure that it's all meshing well together. So right here, I'm just adding a little bit of texture to my bricks, and I wanted this one to be more textured than what I usually go for. So I wanted to look like not as flat and more like cobblestone-y. Because the plaza brick is so kind of refined looking, I wanted a little bit of contrast to that by making the brick look like it's very not smooth, like very rough and textured, and like it sticks up, and if you were driving over it, you'd be like in a car and feeling like you were like shaking or vibrating almost. I don't know, I really wanted it to look like it had a lot of texture to it, even though it is a very like brick kind of structured pattern. I don't know why, that was just, it happened to be important to me at the time. These colors I got just basically from my basic brick colors that I typically use, and I turned down the saturation 2 spaces. If you're interested in doing something like that, you can color pick off of any like brick picture in the AC Design Patterns website that I've shown in the previous brick tutorial. I decided to mute it even more and go a few shades darker because it wasn't meshing as well with the gray sidewalk color that I had chosen, and I really wanted them to like complement each other very well, so I needed it to be just slightly more muted, but stand out a little. It also wasn't looking as good on the snow, so adjustments needed to be made. It's the nature of the beast, and it's how we do things. Right now, I am making a border, and if you guys are curious, I do 6 spaces. I allow 6 rows at the top or side, or whatever side I'm doing the border at. It's typically 6 spaces now. I used to do 8, but it makes a nice thick border, but for this particular one, because there's a sidewalk as well, I wanted it to just kind of be a little less of a seam, because there's already the seam of the sidewalk that kind of touches up against it if you're using that part of the pathway. So I did a little experimentation here without putting like a dark line to separate the border and the brick path. I do go back later and adjust that, because I ended up not liking it once it was laid out. It looked a little too wishy-washy for me. Pixel art isn't easy, guys. So sometimes you try things and they look great in your head, or you think they're going to look great, but then you lay them out and you're like, you know what? Maybe not. So that happens to me all the time, and it's totally fine. We just roll with it. We move on. So I found on these diagonal pieces, what really does work for me is taking the line tool and the clear color pixel thing and just working with that. And then once it gets far enough away from the main design, then just using that big old block to take out the rest of the coloring. And then I just use the line tool to draw out the base of the border, and then go in with the pencil to kind of texturize it just a little bit afterwards. So you're welcome to do whatever works for you. I was just letting you guys know like what little things kind of help me when I'm doing this process. Also, I work from the actual corner pieces just so I have the base of where they're starting and ending in the borders, so I know what boundaries to stay within. Here's what I mentioned earlier about going back in later and darkening the borders of my, or darkening the borders of my border, I guess is how it is. And just making them a little more defined so that we can see them and they don't get lost in the custom design. I know that's a vibe, right? That people do make custom designs where it's kind of not a little more muted and understated where the borders are and such, but for me, for some reason it really bugs me and I don't know why, but I've always tried to do it, and it's something I always tried to do, and I think at this point I'm just accepting that it's not my style, and that's okay because we all have, you know, different ways that we like doing things. You can absolutely feel free to take this and leave your borders muted. You can make your lines, your grout lines, a little more understated and pop up the colors a little bit more in the middle so that they like rise a little more to make the bricks kind of stand out. Personally, I don't know why I have so many issues with it. Like it never feels right to me, and I always just go with what feels right in my gut. And I think everybody kind of has a style that they foster over time, and it might just be that that's the way I've just gotten used to doing things. So here's a fun fact. I've been recording for a couple of months now, and I always just assumed that when I did speed builds that I was going to catch on. Like I was going to understand my thought process and what I was doing. And over time, I was going to catch on to that. I was going to be able to watch a playback and know what I was doing. That actually hasn't happened yet. I still sometimes look at it and I'm like, what in the world was I thinking and what was I doing? It turns out fine. Usually the build, I'm still usually pretty happy with it, but I still don't actually know what I was thinking when I made it. It's kind of like hot mess designing, if you will. And that's just kind of the thing. But when I make these custom designs and I record my custom design process, I know exactly what I was thinking and what I was doing, even if I don't edit it or voice it over for weeks. And I don't know why that is. I don't know what about like my brain is blocking out my custom design process that isn't happening in my pixel art process. It's totally different. I have no idea, but I can tell you exactly what I was thinking at any given part of this drawing. but I can't tell you what I was doing in a speed build that maybe I did 5 minutes ago. Like, I stop building and then I start recording right away and still can't tell you what I was doing in a way that makes sense. So that's kind of funny, and I just noticed it as I was voicing over this because I made this brick path and I actually put it out quite a while ago, but I hadn't gotten around to editing it because editing me was overwhelmed and tired, and editing me is also now a homeschooling mom of 7 in a wheelchair. So, you know, we've got lots going on. And when I was looking back at this to voice it over, and I was like, oh, maybe I need a refresher. Maybe I should look at it and see what I was thinking. But 2 minutes in, I realized I didn't need a refresher because I actually knew what I was thinking. Like, I didn't have to think that hard about it. So we made a basic layout for our sidewalk path, and we just want it to be like square, like larger, chunkier squares. I was gonna do like entire square, like the entire width of the palette, or the canvas, I'm sorry. But I decided to go into have it in quarters because I thought it was kind of cute. And we're just adding some texture here. In any concrete slab, there's going to be like little highlights and little like grains of shadow and texture in all of it, and slight discolorations and just little imperfections that you're going to get in pretty much any sidewalk, especially like a worn sidewalk like this. While I make the corner pieces that obviously I forgot to do earlier, the inner corner pieces, I'm going to go ahead and ramble on because I think what I was trying to explain was probably maybe a key note. So as we're making these little highlights and lowlights and shadows, it's really important that we add like just enough variation and texture that it comes across as being slightly realistic, but not so much that it looks like a repeating pattern, if that makes any sense. Like if you put an actual like recognizable thing in it, you're gonna see that thing repeating in every square, unless you make 3 variations of it with different highlights and lowlights and stuff in order to have variation. But then you're talking about extra design slots and extra spaces, and then having to change out, like if you use the island designer tool, having to change that just for filler pieces and making room for filler pieces as well as laying out filler pieces. And nobody really wants to commit to that. This is already like a 16, 17, I don't know. It's a lot of piece pattern. I think it's 27 pieces maybe at the end of it. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm probably wrong because I didn't really do the math before doing this, but it has like a lot of pieces, and you don't want to have you know, so many pieces dedicated to just the filler. The diagonal pieces on the concrete part of this, or the sidewalk part of this, are very similar to the brick pieces, except without a border. All you have to do is make like a little drop shadow and everything is fine. They're really kind of easy, and I don't think that you need too much explanation about it. You can, and I do recommend going in and changing some of those little texture pixels just so that it's not completely repetitive. I tend to do that at the very end. But if you want, now's a good time. And then we're going to jump to the concrete diagonal brick path, like the combination one. And for this, I tend to use the harder custom design, and then I fill it in with the easier one. Since the easier one is the concrete in this instance, all I have to do is go in and make some squares, and I didn't want to redo all of that brick because that brick was like the more labor intensive of this. but the little concrete slab, we can totally do that. So all you do is you take the other half of the diagonal piece and you add in the concrete, and you kind of copy what you did for the centerpiece to the rest of the concrete so that it makes a combined piece, and then you can put it together in a really cute way. So we're just gonna do this last corner before we run around and get some materials to make a nice little photo opportunity for this custom design, so that I can put it out there for anybody who may want to use it, or may just want to look at it in person from the reference photo, or to like try and make their own. And that's pretty much it. I thank you guys for showing up and showing these custom design videos so much love. I really appreciate you so much. If there is something you want to see, a custom design that you want to see, or anything that you might need help with as far as laying these custom designs out, which I'm showing you right now, let me know. I know you could be doing absolutely anything, and you spent a good chunk of your time here with me, and I appreciate you so much for that. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and until next time, bye.